Rivers never truly sleep. They move in silence beneath the moon, carrying memories, secrets, and sometimes something far darker. Across Tennessee, massive dams rise from these rivers like concrete giants, built to control floods, generate power, and tame the wild flow of water. But when the sun sets and the mist begins to drift across the surface, these structures feel less like engineering marvels and more like gateways. Locals speak in hushed tones about lights flickering where no lights should be, voices echoing across spillways long after midnight, and shadows moving along the dam walls with no human source. Some fishermen swear they hear knocking from deep inside the concrete. Some night guards refuse to work alone. Some visitors feel watched the moment they step too close to the water. These dams were built on land soaked with history, tragedy, and loss. And the rivers beneath them remember everything. Tonight, we travel through Tennessee to uncover the most haunted river dams, places where water meets concrete and the past refuses to stay buried. Hello, my dear friend. I hope you are comfortable and safe, because what we are about to explore flows through some of the darkest corners of Tennessee's waterways. Tennessee is a state shaped by rivers. The Tennessee River, the Cumberland, the Clinch, and countless others have given life, power, and prosperity. But they have also taken lives. Entire towns were flooded to build dams. Families were displaced. Accidents were buried in official reports. Workers fell, machines failed, and some never made it home. At night, these dams feel different. The air grows heavier. The water goes unnaturally still or suddenly violent. Sounds travel farther than they should. Visitors describe sudden cold, an overwhelming sense of dread, and the feeling that something beneath the water is watching them. Before we begin, let me ask you something. If you heard your name whispered from the dark water below a dam at midnight, would you answer, or would you walk away without looking back? Take a slow breath. And let us step closer to the haunted river dams of Tennessee. Norris Dam rises from the bend of the Clinch River with a quiet authority that is hard to ignore. Its concrete face catches the daylight calmly, reflecting the sky and water as if it were simply another part of the landscape. From a distance, it feels orderly and controlled, a structure designed to tame the river and serve the region. Yet even in full sun, there is a weight to its presence, as though the dam is watching everything that moves below it. As the day fades, the atmosphere changes. Shadows stretch across the spillway, and the steady sound of flowing water grows deeper and heavier. The dam no longer feels passive. It feels alert. The river beneath it darkens. The surface takes on a smooth, glass-like quality that hides its depth. Locals say this is the hour when the dam begins to feel awake. During its construction, the site was filled with noise, motion, and danger. Men worked long hours surrounded by heavy machinery. The river was unpredictable, and safety standards were not what they are today. Stories passed down through generations speak of accidents that were never fully documented. Workers slipping from scaffolding. Sudden surges of water. Falls that ended in silence beneath the surface. Those stories did not fade when the dam was completed. Instead, they settled into the structure itself. Employees who work night shifts often describe an uneasy stillness inside the dam after sunset. The tunnels and corridors are narrow and echoing, lit by rows of dim industrial lights. Sound travels strangely there. Footsteps can seem closer or farther away than they should. More than one worker has reported hearing footsteps behind them, only to turn and find the passage completely empty. Security guards tell similar stories. Late at night, when routine checks take them through restricted areas, they sometimes hear faint tapping coming from within the concrete walls. The sound is soft and irregular, like knuckles brushing stone. It does not follow a rhythm, and it does not respond to noise or movement. When the guards pause to listen, the tapping often stops, leaving only the low hum of the dam and the distant rush of water. Some dismiss these sounds as the natural settling of an aging structure. Concrete expands and contracts with temperature changes. Water presses constantly against the walls. Pipes carry pressure deep within the dam. Yet even those who understand these explanations admit that the feeling is different when it happens. The air feels heavier. The silence that follows feels intentional. Above ground, visitors walking along the overlooks often sense something they cannot easily describe. By day, the views are wide and peaceful. Trees line the riverbanks, and the water moves steadily downstream. But many people report feeling watched, especially when standing near the edge and looking down into the water below the dam. It is not fear exactly, but a persistent awareness that lingers even after they leave. At night, the river takes on a different character. Local fishermen and residents describe seeing pale shapes just beneath the surface, moving slowly against the current. These shapes do not break the water or create ripples. They drift silently, appearing and fading without warning. Some say they resemble reflections. Others say they look more like figures, stretched and distorted by the flow. No one has ever captured clear evidence of these sightings. Photographs show only dark water and reflected lights. Videos reveal nothing unusual. Yet the stories remain remarkably consistent, even among people who have never spoken to one another. There are moments when the dam itself seems to respond. Workers describe sudden drops in ambient noise, as if the machinery pauses for a brief second before resuming. During these moments, the space feels suspended, like time hesitates. Then everything returns to normal, leaving only the memory of that silence. Longtime residents believe the dam remembers its beginnings. They say the river never forgets those taken by it, and the dam stands directly in its path, holding back not just water, but history. The idea is not that the place is hostile, but that it is occupied. Something remains tied to the routine, the pressure, and the endless movement of the river through concrete channels. Visitors often leave with the same quiet impression. They may not see anything unusual or hear any unexplained sounds, but they carry a lingering sense of unease. It feels as though something unseen continues its work below the surface, long after the gates close and the lights dim. By day, it appears calm and orderly. By night, it feels aware. The river flows on, the turbines turn, and the structure endures. And somewhere within the concrete and water, something still seems to be listening, waiting, and working, unseen. At dawn, the Tennessee River moves slowly beneath the massive concrete wall of Watts Bar Dam. From a distance, the structure appears calm and motionless, stretching across the water like a sleeping giant. Sunlight glints off its surface, and the river below reflects the sky with deceptive serenity. To many, it is simply a feat of engineering, a place of turbines and spillways, of controlled power and steady purpose. But for those who linger too long near its edges, the dam feels alive in a way that is difficult to explain. Morning fog often drifts across the river here, rolling in low and thick, softening the sharp lines of concrete and steel. Fishermen arrive early, casting their lines into the quiet water, listening to the gentle hum that never fully fades. Some say that during these foggy hours, when sound carries strangely across the river, voices rise from beneath the dam. The calls are faint, almost lost beneath the steady rush of water, but they feel intentional, as if someone unseen is calling for attention from below the surface. Those who hear the voices describe them as unclear, not quite words, but close enough to make the heart quicken. The sound seems to come from everywhere at once, echoing off the concrete walls and the riverbanks. When the fog lifts and the morning brightens, the voices fade, leaving only the water and the uneasy silence that follows. As daylight gives way to evening, the mood around the dam shifts. The river remains calm, but shadows stretch longer across the spillway, and the massive structure seems to loom larger against the darkening sky. Locals speak of figures seen standing atop the dam late at night. These shapes appear motionless at first, silhouetted against distant lights, as if watching the river below. When approached, they vanish without sound, leaving no sign that anyone was ever there. Security workers and late-night visitors have shared similar stories over the years. Some describe the figures as tall and indistinct, more like shadows than people. Others say they appear solid for a moment, only to dissolve into darkness as the distance closes. There is no sound of footsteps, no rustle of clothing, just absence where something seemed to be moments before. Each account ends the same way, with a lingering sense of being watched long after the figure disappears. Heavy rain brings another layer of mystery to What's Bar Dam. During storms, when the river swells and the spillways roar, strange lights have been reported deep beneath the water. Witnesses describe brief glows, pale and shifting, appearing far below the surface. The lights do not move like reflections, nor do they match the rhythm of passing boats or distant structures. Some say the lights pulse softly, as if breathing, while others describe a steady glow that fades once noticed. These sightings are rare and unpredictable, often occurring during the heaviest rain, when the river is loud and restless. When the river is loud and restless, the lights seem to appear more frequently, as if drawn to the turmoil. The light's behavior is as mysterious as it is unsettling, leaving many to wonder what secrets lie beneath the surface. Those who see them are left questioning what could shine so clearly through the dark, churning water, and why it appears only to disappear again without explanation. The dam itself carries the weight of decades, standing as a silent witness to countless seasons, storms, and stories. Water passes through it day and night, controlled and measured, yet always powerful. For some, that sound feels comforting. For others, it feels like a warning, a reminder that immense forces are held in place just beneath the surface. Visitors often report an unusual heaviness near the base of the dam, a pressure in the air that has nothing to do with weather. It is a feeling that encourages quiet, as if the place itself demands respect. Conversations trail off, footsteps slow, and even the river seems to hush in certain moments. Whether this sensation comes from the scale of the structure or from something less tangible is impossible to say. As night deepens, the river reflects scattered lights from the dam, stretching them into long, wavering lines across the water, blurring the boundary between solid ground and flowing river. In these moments, it becomes easy to understand why stories gather here. Why imagination and memory intertwine so tightly with place. What's Bar Dam remains, steadfast and unmoving. Its purpose clear and its presence undeniable. Yet beneath its calm surface, the stories continue to flow. Carried by the river and whispered by those who have listened closely. The water may be controlled, but the mystery is not. Long after the lights dim and the fog lifts, the sense of something unseen lingers, waiting quietly beneath the steady flow of the Tennessee River. Cherokee Dam rests in quiet balance between water and land, its long concrete face holding back the steady weight of the river. By day it appears calm and ordinary, surrounded by rolling hills and thick forest that soften its edges. The water lies smooth and reflective, carrying the colors of the sky and trees. To passing travelers it feels peaceful, almost comforting, as if the dam has always belonged to this place. As evening settles in, the atmosphere begins to change. The forest grows darker and denser, and the sounds of insects echo more sharply across the water. Visitors often notice a sudden chill drifting up from the shoreline, a drop in temperature that feels out of place on warm nights. The air near the water seems heavier, pressing gently against the skin, as though the dam is breathing slowly in the dark. Some people describe hearing faint sounds once the sun disappears. A soft crying carries across the water, distant and fragile, never loud enough to pinpoint. Those who search for its source find nothing. The forest remains still, and the water reflects only darkness. Long before the dam existed, this valley was home to scattered farms, small communities, and quiet cemeteries. When the decision was made to build the dam, families were forced to leave land that had been passed down for generations. Homes were dismantled or abandoned. Grave markers were moved where possible, but not all were recovered. As the water rose, fields disappeared beneath the surface, followed by foundations, roads, and forgotten corners of daily life. The remnants of a once thriving community. The past and present collide. A legacy of loss and memory. A haunting legacy. Locals say the lake remembers what was lost. On calm days, when the water is clear and the light strikes just right, straight lines that do not belong to nature appear briefly before fading again. Some believe these are something more, impressions left behind by lives interrupted. At night, shadows seem to gather along the shoreline. They form where trees meet water, stretching and merging until it is difficult to tell where forest ends and reflection begins. These shapes do not move quickly. They linger, watching silently, as if waiting. People walking near the edge often feel the urge to turn around, sensing they are not alone even when no one else is present. The dam itself holds a constant low hum, a sound so steady it becomes part of the background. Yet in the quiet hours, that hum feels deeper and more deliberate. Some claim it changes tone late at night, becoming slower, almost like a distant pulse. Engineers explain this as normal vibration, but those who listen closely say it feels different, as though the structure is responding to something unseen. Stories passed down through generations speak of lights appearing over the water. Small glows drift just above the surface, pale and wavering, before vanishing without a ripple. Fishermen tell of nets growing suddenly heavy, only to come up empty. Campers recall waking from sleep with the sense of being watched, their tents surrounded by silence that feels intentional. Despite these stories, Cherokee Dam is not a place of chaos or fear. The energy here is quiet and restrained. Whatever lingers does not rush or threaten. It observes. The spirits spoken of in local lore are said to be tied to the land itself, unable or unwilling to leave the valley that once held their homes and memories. During foggy mornings, the dam appears to float between worlds. Mist rolls across the water and climbs the concrete face, blurring edges and swallowing sound. In these moments, time feels uncertain. Visitors describe losing track of minutes, standing longer than intended without realizing it. The outside world seems distant, as if separated by more than just distance. As daylight returns, the dam resumes its familiar appearance. Birds circle overhead, and the forest stirs with life. The water once again reflects the sky, hiding whatever lies beneath. To many, the night stories fade with the sunrise, dismissed as imagination or folklore shaped by darkness. Yet the stories persist, carried by those who have felt the cold air, heard the distant crying, or sensed the silent presence along the shore. Cherokee Dam remains a place where past and present overlap, where progress and loss share the same space. The water holds more than reflection, and the land remembers more than it reveals. When night falls again, the hills and forest close in softly. The dam stands watch over the quiet lake. Shadows gather, the air cools, and the valley listens. Whatever was left behind when the water rose still lingers here, woven into the silence, waiting patiently in the dark. Fort Loudon Dam rises quietly along the Tennessee River, a broad wall of concrete and steel standing where water slows and gathers its weight. By day it appears calm and purposeful, a structure built to control currents and generate power. By evening, when the sun sinks behind the hills and shadows stretch across the spillway, the place feels different. The air thickens, sounds travel farther, and the dam seems to listen as much as it watches. The land around the dam carries deep history. Long before turbines and floodgates, these paths were crossed by soldiers, traders, and families moving through uncertain territory. Old conflicts left their mark in the soil, even if the scars are no longer visible. Locals say the ground remembers everything. The dam did not erase what came before it. Instead, it rests on top of those memories, holding them down the same way it holds back the river. As daylight fades, walkers along the service roads often sense they are not alone. Footsteps echo strangely, sometimes sounding closer than they should. Some people describe the unsettling feeling of breath brushing past their ears, slow and heavy, as if someone is standing just behind them. When they turn, there is nothing there. The road remains empty, the trees unmoving, yet the feeling lingers long after. Inside the locked buildings near the dam, lights sometimes flicker without warning. Maintenance crews check wiring and find no faults. Switches are untouched, circuits intact. The lights simply pulse once or twice, then settle, as if responding to something unseen passing through the rooms. Security cameras capture nothing unusual, only brief distortions and static before returning to normal. Boaters on the river notice the dam long before they reach it. At night, the structure glows faintly under floodlights, reflecting across the water in broken lines. Some claim to see figures standing at the edge, silhouettes perfectly still, facing the river below. When the boat drifts closer and the pilot looks again, the figures vanish. The concrete edge is empty, offering no sign that anyone was ever there. These sightings follow no clear pattern. They happen on calm nights as often as stormy ones. They are seen by seasoned river workers and first-time visitors alike. Each witness describes the same detail. The figures never wave or move. They only watch the water, silent and patient, as if waiting for something to rise from below. The river beneath Fort Loudon Dam flows deeper than it appears. Water released from the spillway churns and twists, pulling objects into slow spirals before carrying them downstream. Some say the river carries more than sediment and debris. They believe it carries echoes of the past, voices pressed into the current by time and tragedy. When the water surges, those echoes feel closer, almost close enough to touch. On certain evenings, a low sound drifts across the dam, barely louder than the wind. It is not mechanical and does not match the rhythm of the turbines. Those who hear it describe it as a distant exhale, rising from the river and fading into the air. The sound never lasts long, but it leaves behind a heavy silence that feels deliberate, as if the dam itself has paused to listen. Visitors sometimes report an intense sense of being watched while standing near the railing. The sensation comes without warning, bringing a sudden chill despite warm weather. Looking out over the water offers no answers. The river moves steadily, reflecting stars and lights, giving no sign of what might be watching from below or from the darkened corners of the structure. Despite these stories, Fort Loudon Dam continues its work without interruption. Power is generated, water levels are managed, and the river follows its guided course. Daytime visitors see nothing out of the ordinary. Families take photos, anglers cast lines, and cars pass by without slowing. The unsettling moments belong mostly to twilight and night, when the dam seems to slip into a different state of being. Some believe the presence felt here is not hostile, only persistent. A reminder that the land and water existed long before concrete walls and control systems. Others believe something was trapped when the river was altered, forced to remain near the place where the flow was changed forever. Whatever the explanation, the stories continue to spread, shared quietly and without exaggeration. As night deepens, the dam stands firm against the current, holding back the river and everything it carries. For those who pass through at the right moment, Fort Loudon Dam is more than an engineering landmark. It is a place where history, water, and silence meet, and where something unseen still watches the river move through the dark. Douglas Dam rises from the river like a quiet wall of concrete and shadow, solid and unmoving by day, yet strangely unsettled after the sun slips behind the hills. During daylight hours, the structure appears ordinary, almost peaceful, with water flowing in measured patterns and birds circling overhead. Visitors pause for photographs, linger for a moment, and move on without a second thought. But as evening deepens, the atmosphere around the dam begins to change in ways that are difficult to explain and impossible to ignore. Locals have long said that Douglas Dam has moods. On certain nights, the air feels heavier, as if the valley itself is holding its breath. The river below slows and darkens, reflecting the sky like polished stone. The movement feels deliberate, almost watchful, as though something beneath the surface has become aware of those standing nearby. People who visit after sunset often describe a sudden pressure in the chest, an uncomfortable weight that makes breathing feel shallow. It arrives without warning and lingers just long enough to stir unease. Some compare it to the sensation of being stared at from close range, though there is no one in sight. The dam looms overhead, silent and massive, its shadow stretching across the river like a dark hand. As night settles fully, sound begins to play tricks on the senses. A low humming sometimes rises from beneath the dam, steady and deep, vibrating faintly through the ground. The noise does not match the usual mechanical rhythm expected from such a structure. It feels older, slower, and strangely organic. Those who pause to listen often find that the sound fades when they try to pinpoint its source, only to return moments later, closer than before. In this haze, shapes seem to form and dissolve. Some visitors claim to see faces in the mist, pale and expressionless, hovering just above the water before vanishing without a trace. These sightings last only seconds, yet the memory of them lingers far longer, leaving a deep sense of unease. Stories circulate among nearby communities, passed quietly from one person to another. A late-night fisherman once packed up his gear and left everything behind after hearing the humming grow louder, as if calling directly to him. A couple on an evening walk felt the pressure in their chests grow so intense that they turned back without speaking, each later admitting they had felt an overwhelming urge to flee. No one claims to understand why these experiences occur, only that they are remarkably consistent. The dam itself offers no answers. Its concrete face remains unchanged, bearing no sign of disturbance. Lights reflect softly off the surface of the water, casting long shimmering lines that tremble with every unexplained ripple. The river below moves onward, carrying secrets downstream, while the structure above stands firm, indifferent to the fear it inspires. What makes Douglas Dam especially unsettling is the way calm and tension exist side by side. One moment, the night feels still and quiet, almost serene. The next, the atmosphere shifts, and every instinct urges caution. Even those who arrive skeptical find themselves watching the water more closely, listening harder, sensing something just beyond the reach of sight. Few people stay long after sunset. Cars pull away with headlights cutting through the mist, leaving the dam alone once more. Silence returns, broken only by the steady flow of the river, and the occasional distant hum that seems to sink back into the concrete. The valley settles, as if satisfied that it has been left undisturbed. By morning, Douglas Dam appears unchanged, its strange presence hidden beneath sunlight and routine. Yet those who have felt its nighttime moods carry the experience with them. They remember the rippling water without wind, the weight in the chest, the low sound rising from below. And they know that when darkness falls again, the dam will resume its quiet watch, holding its mysteries close and revealing them only to those who dare to linger. Chickamauga Dam stretches across the river with a calm, deliberate presence, holding back the water as it has for decades. By daylight, it appears steady and functional, a carefully engineered structure set against rolling hills and quiet banks. The surface of the water glides past the concrete walls, reflecting the sky and trees in smooth, familiar patterns. At first glance, nothing feels out of place. Yet this land carries a heavy past. Long before the dam reshaped the river, the ground nearby witnessed intense human struggle. Even now, many locals believe that history did not fade when the fighting ended. Instead, it settled into the land and water, waiting. As evening approaches, Chickamauga Dam begins to feel different. The air cools quickly, and the sounds of the day slowly disappear. The steady rush of water grows louder in the quiet, echoing beneath the structure. Shadows deepen along the walkways and railings, stretching into long, uneven shapes. The dam feels less like a place of work and more like a place of watching. Night guards assigned to patrol the dam speak carefully about their experiences. During late hours, when traffic is gone and the surrounding area lies still, some report hearing distant marching sounds. The noise is faint but unmistakable, like the soft rhythm of many feet moving together. It does not come from a single direction and does not follow the patterns of nearby roads or rail lines. When guards stop to listen, the sound often fades, leaving only the low murmur of water below. Along with the marching, sudden cold gusts sometimes sweep across the dam without warning. These bursts of cold air arrive even on calm nights when there is no wind forecast. They pass through quickly, raising goosebumps and leaving behind a sharp chill that lingers longer than expected. Guards say the temperature shift feels unnatural, as though the air itself is moving with purpose. Inside the dam, the atmosphere can feel equally unsettling. A distant echo may seem close one moment and far the next. Footsteps sometimes appear to follow, matching pace before vanishing altogether. Equipment hums steadily, yet there are moments when the mechanical noise seems to soften, as if the space itself is listening. Some believe these experiences are tied to the Rivera's transformation. When the dam altered the flow, it changed more than water levels and shorelines. According to local belief, it disturbed something older, something bound to the natural course of the river and the land it touched. The idea persists that spirits connected to the past were caught in the shift, unable to move on as the river once allowed. The water below the dam holds its own mysteries. At night, reflections shimmer across the surface. But they do not always behave as expected. Lights appear stretched or misplaced, drifting where there should be darkness. Shapes reflect that have no clear source, rising and fading with the movement of the current. Those who have noticed these distortions often look away quickly, uneasy with the feeling that the water is showing something it should not. Visitors walking along nearby paths after sunset sometimes describe a strange disorientation. Familiar landmarks seem briefly unfamiliar. Sounds carry farther than they should, or not far enough. A sense of being watched settles in, quiet but persistent. Even when nothing visible occurs, the feeling remains. Long-time residents speak of the dam with a mix of respect and caution. They acknowledge its role in providing power and controlling the river. But they also recognize the weight of its location. The past here is not distant. It feels close, pressed just beneath the surface, waiting for moments of stillness to reveal itself. There are nights when the dam feels almost crowded, despite the absence of people. The air seems thick with memory. The steady rhythm of water passing through the structure feels like breathing, slow and measured. In those moments, the idea that something remains behind does not feel like a story. It feels like an observation. Chickamauga Dam stands as a reminder that progress often builds upon places already shaped by history. The concrete walls may be modern, but the ground beneath them is ancient with memory. By day, the dam fulfills its purpose quietly and efficiently. By night, it carries the weight of what came before. Those who leave the area after dark often carry an unspoken sense of unease. It is not fear, but awareness. A feeling that the river, the land, and the structure itself are still connected to events long past. The water continues to flow. The dam continues to stand. And within the silence of the night, the echoes of history seem to move on, just out of sight. Nickajack Dam rises quietly along the Tennessee River, its wide concrete face holding back powerful currents that never truly rest. By day, the dam appears calm and orderly, a carefully measured barrier guiding water through gates and channels. The river above it looks smooth and reflective, giving little hint of the force restrained beneath. Yet even in daylight, there is a tension in the air, a sense that the water is waiting. As afternoon fades into evening, the atmosphere around the dam begins to change. The hum of machinery blends with the natural sounds of flowing water, creating a low, steady presence that carries across the riverbanks. The light softens, shadows stretch, and the dam seems larger than before, as if it grows with the coming night. Those who know the area well often choose to leave before darkness fully settles. Locals have long spoken of strange sounds near Nickajack Dam after sunset. Late at night, when traffic is sparse and the river valley grows quiet, sudden screams are said to rise with the wind. The sounds are sharp and brief, cutting through the steady rush of water before fading just as quickly. Some describe them as distant, others as uncomfortably close, as if carried directly past the ear on a passing gust. What unsettles listeners most is the lack of a clear source. The screams do not repeat in any predictable pattern, nor do they match the calls of wildlife. Those who hear them are left frozen in place, unsure whether to listen closer or move away as quickly as possible. The river itself behaves differently at night. Boaters who have spent years navigating these waters say the current feels heavier near the dam after dark. Engines idle lower, conversations quiet, and attention stays fixed on the water ahead. Many choose to turn back rather than approach the dam once the sun has fully set. Lights beneath the water add another layer to the mystery. Near the base of Nickajack Dam, faint glows have been reported appearing below the surface. These lights shine briefly, pale and distant, before vanishing without trace. They do not flicker like reflections, nor do they follow the steady patterns of equipment or boats. Instead, they seem to exist only long enough to be noticed. Witnesses describe the lights as deep and steady, suspended beneath the moving water. Some say they appear during calm nights, others during periods of increased flow, but always without warning. When the glow fades, the water returns to darkness, leaving observers questioning whether they truly saw anything at all. The river offers no answers, only motion. Stories like these have shaped how people interact with the dam. Boaters avoid lingering nearby after dark, choosing safer stretches of the river instead. Anglers pack up early, and even those simply passing through tend to move quickly, as if instinct urges them onward. It is not fear in a dramatic sense, but a quiet caution, born of too many unsettling moments shared in hushed conversations. Standing near the dam at night, the scale of the structure becomes impossible to ignore. Water presses against concrete with constant force, held in place by design and vigilance. The sound is unending, a deep, resonant flow that vibrates through the ground. It feels less like a backdrop and more like a presence, steady and watchful. There are moments when the wind moves just right, carrying echoes across the water. In those moments, every sound feels amplified, every movement more significant. A ripple on the surface draws attention. A distant splash lingers longer than expected. The idea that the water feels alive is repeated often by those who know Nickajack Dam well. It is not a claim of something seen, but something sensed. A subtle pull, a shift in awareness, a feeling that the river is more than a channel of moving water. Whether this sensation comes from the power contained there or from the stories layered over time is impossible to separate. Nickajack Dam continues to do what it was built to do, day after day, year after year. It regulates the river, supports the region, and stands as a testament to human engineering. Yet alongside its practical role, it carries a quieter legacy, one shaped by late-night screams, vanishing lights, and the deep unease of moving water after dark. When dawn returns, the river looks peaceful again. The screams are gone, the lights unseen. And the surface smooths into gentle motion. But for those who have felt the Rivera's presence at night. The screams are gone, the lights unseen, and the surface smooths into gentle motion. But for those who have felt the Rivera's presence at night. Beneath the steady flow, the stories remain, moving silently with the current, waiting for night to fall once more. Tellico Dam rises where a river once moved freely through a wide and ancient valley. By day, the water appears calm, stretching across the landscape with an almost deliberate stillness. Forested hills frame the reservoir, and the surface reflects clouds and sky as if nothing beneath has ever changed. To many visitors, it looks like a peaceful place shaped by careful design and quiet purpose. Yet this land did not begin in silence. Long before the dam was built, the valley held stories layered across centuries. Paths worn by countless footsteps crossed the riverbanks. Open fields, village sites, and sacred ground formed a living map of memory. The rising water promised progress and control, but it also meant erasing places that had meaning far beyond what could be measured or replaced. As the river was slowed and the valley gradually disappeared. Trees were cut back. Soil reshaped. And the water climbed higher each day. Ancient ground slipped beneath the surface. Followed by traces of human presence that had endured for generations. What remained above water was quiet. But what lay below was not forgotten. Visitors often describe an unusual feeling when they arrive near the dam. Even on bright afternoons, the air can feel heavier, as if sound itself travels more slowly. Some experience dizziness without warning, a brief sense of disorientation that passes as quickly as it comes. Others feel drawn toward the shoreline, compelled to stand still and listen. During calm evenings, when the wind settles and the water smooths into glass, faint sounds have been reported drifting across the surface. Low chanting seems to rise from nowhere, steady and rhythmic. Then fade again into silence. The sound never carries clearly enough to follow. Those who hear it say it does not feel threatening, but purposeful. As if part of a ritual continuing without witnesses. As darkness falls, the dam takes on a different presence. The hills become silhouettes, and the water reflects only shadow and distant light. Along the shoreline, figures have been seen moving slowly, their forms indistinct and pale against the night. They walk as if following paths no longer visible, tracing lines that once existed before the water came. These figures never remain for long. As observers focus their attention, the shapes thin and dissolve, blending into mist or darkness until nothing remains. No sound follows their disappearance, only the quiet lapping of water against the shore. Those who witness this often feel an overwhelming stillness, a pause that seems deeper than ordinary silence. Local stories suggest that the land itself remembers what was taken from it. The valley, once alive with movement and meaning, now holds its past beneath the surface. On certain mornings, when fog drifts low over the water, outlines appear briefly in the mist. Straight edges and angles hint at structures that should not exist in nature, then vanish as the sun rises higher. Fishermen and boaters sometimes speak of strange moments on the reservoir. Compasses seem unreliable, pointing slightly off course. Time feels altered, with minutes stretching longer than expected. Conversations fall quiet without explanation, replaced by a shared sense of listening. As though the water carries something just beyond hearing. The dam itself stands firm and unmoving, a solid barrier against the slow pressure of the lake. Its presence is constant, yet it feels separate from the landscape around it. Others believe it merely marks the place where memory gathers. Despite the unease some feel, Tellico Dam is not a place of open fear. The atmosphere is solemn rather than violent, reflective rather than chaotic. Whatever lingers here does not rush or demand attention. It exists quietly, woven into the rhythm of water and land, as patient as the valley itself. As daylight returns, the sensations soften. The chanting fades, the dizziness lifts, and the shoreline appears ordinary once more. Birds return to the trees, and the water sparkles under the sun. Visitors go about their day, often questioning what they felt once the moment has passed. Yet the stories endure, shared in low voices and remembered long after leaving the area. Tellico Dam stands as more than a feat of engineering. It is a place where past and present overlap, where progress rests atop memory, and where the land continues to speak in subtle ways. When night comes again, the valley settles into stillness. The water darkens, the hills close in, and the shoreline waits. Beneath the surface, ancient ground remains undisturbed, holding its history intact. And in the quiet hours, when the world slows enough to listen, the land remembers what was taken from it. Kentucky Dam rises where wide water meets controlled force, a massive structure stretching across the Tennessee River, close to the border yet deeply woven into the stories of both states. From a distance it looks steady and unremarkable, a functional monument of concrete and steel. Up close, especially as daylight fades, the dam takes on a heavier presence, as if its size alone presses against the air. The surrounding land has always been a place of movement. Rivers once guided traders, travelers, and workers through the region, carrying goods and people long before modern roads existed. When the dam was built, the flow of water changed. But the sense of passage did not disappear. Instead, it settled into the structure itself, as though the dam absorbed the rhythm of everything that once moved freely here. During the day, activity feels ordinary. Vehicles cross without hesitation. Workers move through secured areas, listening to the steady hum of machinery. Yet as evening approaches, the atmosphere shifts. Sounds travel farther, and silence feels more intentional, less empty. Inside the dam structure, some workers have reported unexplained knocking sounds. The knocking leaves no trace, only the memory of its precise timing. The noise does not match the regular patterns of mechanical systems or temperature shifts. Footsteps are another common report. In corridors cleared for maintenance, where no one else is scheduled to be present, slow steps can be heard moving steadily along concrete floors. The sound carries clearly, heel to toe, as if someone is walking with purpose. When workers check the area, the corridors remain empty, light steady, doors locked as they should be. At night, the dam becomes something else entirely. Floodlights cast long bands of brightness across the wall, creating sharp contrasts between light and shadow. Shadows appear to stretch and slide beside their vehicles, matching their speed with unsettling precision. These shadows do not break form or drift away like ordinary darkness. They hold a human shape, narrow and upright, keeping pace for several seconds. Drivers glance in mirrors or slow their speed. But the shadows never linger long enough to be clearly understood. By the time the car reaches the far end, the wall is bare again. Some dismiss the experience as an illusion created by headlights and uneven surfaces. Others are less certain. The stories share too many similarities, told by people who had never spoken to one another before. The timing is consistent. The shadows appear late at night, when traffic is sparse and the dam is quiet enough to feel exposed. The river below Kentucky Dam moves slowly but with great force. Water released through the structure churns into deep currents, swirling before settling into a steady downstream flow. Standing near the railing at night, listeners sometimes hear a low resonance rising from the water, not quite a sound, not quite silence. It feels like pressure, like something pressing upward from beneath the surface. Those who spend time near the dam often describe a sensation of being observed. It is not panic or fear, but awareness, as if attention is being directed toward them from somewhere just out of sight. Turning toward the source brings no answers. The dam remains still, the water unbroken, the night unchanged. Despite these accounts, the dam continues to operate without disruption. Systems run efficiently. Safety checks pass. There are no recorded incidents to explain the experiences. The structure does exactly what it was designed to do, controlling water and producing power with unwavering reliability. Yet stories persist, passed quietly between workers, locals, and travelers who lingered too long after dark. They are told without embellishment, often with hesitation, as if the speaker is unsure whether the experience should be shared at all. The lack of explanation seems to give the stories more weight, not less. Some believe the dam holds echoes of the past, moments imprinted during its construction or during the years when the river was first altered. Others believe the constant movement of water and energy creates conditions that affect perception in subtle ways. There is no single explanation that satisfies every detail. In the end, Kentucky Dam is more than a boundary marker or an engineering achievement. It is a place where motion and stillness exist side by side, where stories drift as steadily as the river below. For those who experience its quieter moments, the dam leaves a lasting impression, one that lingers long after the lights fade and the road carries them away into the dark. Old Hickory Dam presents itself as calm and familiar, a place where the river widens gently and the concrete stretches with quiet confidence. By day, families walk along the paths, children lean over railings to watch the water, and the air carries the ordinary sounds of birds and distant traffic. Nothing about the scene suggests danger or mystery. The dam feels open, welcoming, almost comforting in its routine presence along the water. As evening approaches, the tone begins to shift in subtle ways. The light softens, shadows lengthen, and the river reflects the sky like dark glass. Most visitors leave before night settles in, but those who remain often describe a feeling that something has changed. The air grows noticeably cooler in certain spots, even on warm nights, as if invisible currents move across the walkways without reason. After sunset, Old Hickory Dam reveals a different character. The paths fall quiet, footsteps echo more clearly. And the sound of the water below becomes deeper and more pronounced. It is during these hours that the stories begin. Families living nearby speak of hearing children laughing near the water late at night. The laughter sounds playful and light, drifting across the surface of the river, carrying the unmistakable tone of joy. At first, the sound feels comforting, even nostalgic. It reminds listeners of evenings long past, of carefree moments and familiar voices. But the comfort never lasts. The laughter often comes when no one else is present, echoing from empty walkways and darkened shorelines. Those who stop to listen realize that the sound does not move as real voices would. It hovers in one place, repeating softly before fading away. Cold spots appear without warning along the concrete paths. One step feels normal, the next sends a chill through the body. These sudden drops in temperature are brief but intense, as though the warmth has been pulled away in an instant. People pause, look around, and find no explanation. The air is still. The night is quiet. Yet the cold lingers just long enough to raise unease. Some visitors report noticing faint shapes on the concrete walls near the water. At first, they resemble nothing more than damp marks left by evening moisture. Then, slowly, they take on a familiar form. Handprints appear briefly, pressed flat against the concrete, fingers splayed as if reaching outward. Within moments, they begin to fade, leaving the surface dry and unchanged once more. These sightings are rare but remarkably consistent. The handprints are never sharp or detailed, only impressions, as if formed from mist and memory rather than flesh. No marks remain by morning, and no evidence can be found during daylight hours. Still, those who witness them struggle to forget the image, especially when paired with the distant sound of laughter near the water. The laughter itself never lasts long. It rises suddenly, light and clear, then cuts off without warning. The silence that follows feels heavier than before, pressing in on those nearby. Even experienced night walkers find themselves uneasy, their senses sharpened by the absence of sound. The dam stands above it all, silent and unmoving, offering no sign that anything unusual has occurred. Locals have developed their own quiet habits around Old Hickory Dam. Some avoid the walkways after dark entirely. Others move quickly, keeping their eyes forward and their visits brief. Stories are shared in hushed tones, often with a careful glance over the shoulder, as though speaking too loudly might invite attention. What makes the dam especially unsettling is how well it hides its darkness. There are no obvious warnings, no visible signs of danger. The structure remains clean and well maintained, the paths smooth and orderly. The contrast between its daytime warmth and nighttime tension leaves a lasting impression on those who experience both. By the time dawn arrives, Old Hickory Dam returns to its familiar self. The river sparkles again, footsteps multiply, and laughter is once more expected and real. For those who have walked its paths after sunset, the memory lingers. They remember the sudden cold, the brief handprints, the laughter that came from nowhere and vanished too quickly. Old Hickory Dam does not announce its mysteries. It reveals them quietly, in fleeting moments, to those who linger when the night grows still. And when the last echo fades and the darkness lifts, it keeps its secrets hidden once more, waiting patiently for the next evening to fall. Center Hill Dam rises above the water with a presence that is difficult to define. Even in full daylight, when the sky is clear and the lake appears calm, the structure feels heavy. The concrete face seems to absorb sound and light, creating an atmosphere that feels quieter than it should. Visitors often slow their pace without realizing why, as if the space itself encourages silence. The water below the dam moves gently, yet there is an underlying stillness that feels unnatural. People standing near the edge often describe a sudden emotional weight settling over them. It is not fear. It is sadness, deep and unspoken, arriving without a clear cause. Many who visit Center Hill Dam report the same experience. As they approach the water, a sense of loss seems to press in from all sides. Conversations fade. Thoughts turn inward. Some feel a tightness in their chest or a heaviness behind the eyes. As though the place is quietly sharing a memory that cannot be seen. Early mornings are when the dam feels most alive. Fog drifts low across the surface of the water, softening the edges of the landscape. During these hours, sound travels strangely. Soft whispers seem to move across the lake, rising and falling with the mist. The voices are indistinct, never forming clear words, but their presence is unmistakable. Those who hear them often stop and listen, unsure whether the sound comes from the water, the air, or their own thoughts. The whispers never last long. As the fog thins, they fade away, leaving behind an uneasy silence. Visitors sometimes question themselves afterward, wondering if the sounds were real. Yet many describe the same experience, even when they have never spoken to one another. There are also reports of figures appearing near the edge of the water. These shapes are usually seen from a distance, standing perfectly still and facing the lake. When approached, they vanish without sound, leaving no footprints or disturbances behind. The figures are never detailed. They appear more like outlines, shaped from shadow and mist. Instead, their presence seems mournful. They appear to be watching the water, as if waiting or remembering. The stillness they carry feels deliberate, almost respectful. The history of the land beneath the water is often mentioned by locals when discussing these experiences. Before the dam reshaped the valley, communities existed along the riverbanks. Homes, roads, and familiar gathering places were altered or lost as the water rose. While the dam brought progress and control, it also transformed lives and landscapes forever. Some believe that the emotional weight felt near the dam is tied to those changes. The idea is not that something is haunting the place, but that the memory of what was once there remains embedded in the environment. Water covers more than ground. It covers stories, routines, and moments of everyday life. Inside the dam, workers describe a similar heaviness. The corridors feel dense, as though the air itself resists movement. Sounds echo softly, never sharp or sudden. Even machinery seems quieter here, its hum blending into the background rather than standing out. During long shifts, employees sometimes report an overwhelming urge to leave the area, driven by an emotion they cannot explain. On calm days, when the lake is perfectly still, the feeling intensifies. The water becomes mirror-like, reflecting the sky so clearly that it appears endless. Looking into it can feel disorienting, as if depth and distance lose meaning. Some visitors step back suddenly, overcome by the sensation that the water is pulling their attention downward. Despite these experiences, Center Hill Dam is not a place of chaos or danger. It remains orderly, controlled, and quiet. The atmosphere is not aggressive. It is subdued, reflective, and heavy with emotion. Many who leave say the feeling stays with them long after they are gone, lingering like a memory that does not belong to them. As evening approaches, the sadness near the water seems to deepen. The light softens, and shadows stretch across the concrete. The air cools, carrying with it a sense of stillness that feels complete. The dam stands unmoving, holding back the water and whatever else may rest beneath its surface. Center Hill Dam continues its purpose day after day, unchanged in function. Yet for those who pause and listen, the place offers more than power and control. It offers a quiet reminder that landscapes remember. The water flows. The fog lifts. The figures fade. But the weight remains, resting in the air, patient and unseen. Dale Hollow Dam rests quietly along the border of still water and wooded hills, its presence subtle yet commanding. By day, the dam appears peaceful, almost reserved, allowing the surrounding lake to stretch wide and reflective beneath open sky. The water moves slowly here, guided and contained, giving the impression of calm control. Yet there is something about the silence around the dam that feels heavier than it should, as if sound itself is being held back. As evening approaches, the lake begins to change. Wind fades, birds retreat. And the surface of the water smooths into a mirror-like stillness. Lights from distant shorelines shimmer faintly, barely disturbing the glassy calm. The dam stands watch, unmoving, while the world around it settles into quiet. It is during these hours that the stillness becomes noticeable, almost pressing against those nearby. At night, the lake often becomes unnaturally smooth. There are moments when not a single ripple moves across the surface, even when the air remains warm and open. Boaters drifting slowly through the area describe a sense of suspension, as though time itself has slowed. Engines idle low, voices drop to whispers, and attention stays fixed on the water below. Without warning, ripples sometimes form in the center of this calm. Small at first, they spread outward in perfect circles, as if something unseen has brushed against the surface from below. There is no splash, no breaking of water, only movement where there should be none. The ripples fade slowly, leaving behind questions that linger longer than the motion itself. Those who witness these disturbances often remain still, watching for signs of explanation. Fish do not surface. No debris breaks through the water. The lake simply returns to its smooth silence, as if nothing occurred at all. Yet the feeling remains, an unspoken certainty that the movement was not accidental. More unsettling are the voices some boaters report hearing near Dale Hollow Dam. These sounds are described as low and close, carried just beneath the waterline. The voices do not echo across the lake, but seem to rise directly upward, muffled and distorted, as though filtered through the water itself. They are never loud, never clear enough to understand, but unmistakably present. Listeners describe the experience as deeply unsettling. The voices do not call out, nor do they respond when spoken to. They simply continue for a few moments, overlapping softly, before fading back into silence. No one answers back, not because they choose not to, but because instinct warns against it. These moments often occur when the lake is at its calmest, when the surface reflects stars and distant lights without distortion. A shift of weight in the boat sounds louder than it should. A breath feels intrusive. The voices seem to exist within this quiet, shaped by it, as though the lake itself is speaking. Long-time visitors to Dale Hollow speak of an awareness that settles in near the dam after dark. It is not fear in a sudden sense, but a slow recognition that something about the place demands attention. People report feeling watched, not from the shore or the trees, but from below. The water feels deep in a way that goes beyond distance. The dam structure contributes to this atmosphere. Water passes through unseen channels, guided by mechanisms hidden from view. The sound of distant flow can sometimes be felt more than heard, a subtle vibration carried through the air and into the body. There are nights when the lake remains perfectly still for hours, offering no ripples, no voices, no movement at all. These nights can feel even more unsettling than those marked by strange sounds. The silence becomes complete, as though the environment itself is holding its breath. In such moments, many choose to leave, unable to explain why staying feels wrong. Despite these stories, Dale Hollow Dam continues its quiet work. It regulates water levels, supports recreation, and blends into the natural beauty of the region. During daylight, laughter carries across the lake, boats move freely, and the surface sparkles with reflected sun. The dam seems ordinary, even welcoming. Yet those who have experienced the lake at night know that this calm has another side. The memory of ripples appearing without cause, of voices rising softly from below, changes how the place is remembered. Once noticed, the quiet no longer feels empty. It feels occupied. As night deepens and the lake returns to darkness, the surface smooths once more. The dam stands unchanged, and the water rests against it in silence. Nothing moves. Nothing speaks. But the sense of presence remains, woven into the stillness, waiting beneath the glassy surface of Dale Hollow. Cordell Hull Dam stands solid and immovable against the steady flow of the river. A structure built for control and precision. By daylight, it feels orderly and predictable. Concrete walls rise with clean lines, metal railings gleam faintly, and warning lights blink with calm regularity. Everything appears exactly where it should be, governed by schedules, procedures, and careful monitoring. When evening arrives and operations slow, the dam begins to feel different. After shutdown hours, when turbines are quiet and systems are powered down, a strange atmosphere settles inside the facility. The absence of sound should bring relief, yet many workers describe the silence as incomplete. Deep within the structure, low mechanical noises have been heard, rhythmic and deliberate, echoing through corridors where no machinery should be running. Those assigned to late inspections often pause, listening carefully. The sounds resemble rotating gears or distant motors, steady but muted, as if coming from behind thick walls. Each time the noises are investigated, control panels show no activity. Systems remain off. Readings stay unchanged. Still, the sounds continue, drifting through the concrete like something remembering how to move. Cold air is another constant presence. Workers report sudden drops in temperature inside sealed rooms, places insulated from the outside environment. The chill arrives without warning, flowing gently but persistently, brushing past exposed skin. Doors remain closed, vents show no airflow, and yet the cold lingers, settling into corners and hallways before slowly fading away. Some describe the sensation as walking into unseen currents, as though the dam itself is exhaling. Breath becomes visible in spaces that should be warm. The air feels heavier, sharper, carrying a faint metallic scent that does not belong to any known system. As night deepens, the lighting inside the control areas casts long shadows across the floor. Panels glow softly, reflecting off polished surfaces and glass displays. It is in these moments that workers claim to see movement. Shadowy forms appear near the control panels, standing just beyond the edge of direct light. They do not rush or retreat. They simply watch. These figures are never clear enough to define. Their outlines shift with the angle of light, sometimes appearing tall and narrow, other times broad and still. Veteran staff members speak quietly about these experiences, careful not to exaggerate. They say the feeling is not one of danger, but observation. The presence feels attentive, as if something is studying the controls, the gauges, and the flow of energy through the dam. The sense of being watched lingers long after leaving the room. The dam itself seems to respond to the quiet hours. Metal contracts as temperatures drop, producing soft clicks and creaks that echo through the structure. Pipes release pressure with slow sighs. Floors vibrate subtly, not enough to cause alarm, but enough to be noticed by those who stand still long enough. Footsteps have been heard moving across catwalks when no one is there. Doors appear slightly ajar after being securely closed. Lights flicker briefly, then stabilize, leaving no record of disruption in the system logs. Outside, the river continues its steady course, indifferent to what happens within the concrete walls. The water reflects moonlight and stars, calm and uninterrupted. From the shoreline, the dam looks peaceful, even reassuring. There is no hint of the quiet tension that fills its interior at night. Some believe the dam carries echoes of the past, impressions left behind by years of human effort and constant vigilance. Built through intense labor and long hours, it absorbed the presence of those who once walked its corridors daily. When the machinery rests, those impressions seem to surface, replaying routines long after they should have ended. Others suggest the structure itself has developed a kind of memory. Every vibration, every surge of power, every adjustment etched into the concrete and steel. In the absence of activity, those memories manifest as sound, movement, and sensation. Repeating fragments of purpose without awareness. Despite the stories, Cordell Hull Dam remains fully operational and carefully maintained. Day shifts pass without incident. Systems perform as expected. Inspections reveal nothing out of place. Reports of strange occurrences are noted but rarely escalated, filed away as unexplained but harmless. Those who have worked through the night remember the feeling. The quiet hum beneath silence. The cold air in sealed rooms. The shadows standing patiently near the controls. These experiences are difficult to dismiss once felt, even when logic offers reassurance. As dawn approaches, the atmosphere slowly shifts. The cold recedes. The unexplained sounds fade into the background noise of morning activity. Light fills the corridors, flattening shadows and restoring familiar shapes. The dam returns to its daytime identity, efficient and predictable. Yet something lingers in the memory of those who were there overnight. A sense that when the power goes down and the building rests, Cordell Hull Dam does not fully sleep. It listens. It watches. And in the quiet hours, when machines are silent and the river flows on, the structure reveals a side of itself known only to those who stand alone within its walls. Great Falls Dam stands where the river narrows and accelerates, forcing water through stone and concrete with relentless strength. From a distance, the structure appears timeless, anchored firmly against the current. Up close, the roar of the water dominates everything, filling the air with a constant vibration that seems to travel through the ground and into the body. The history of this place is heavy. Long before modern safety barriers and warning signs, the river claimed lives through sudden surges and hidden currents. Accidents occurred here across generations, each one leaving behind quiet grief and unanswered questions. Even as technology improved, the reputation of Great Falls Dam remained unsettled, shaped by stories passed down rather than official records alone. At night, the dam takes on a different character. Darkness settles into the surrounding cliffs, and the Rivera's sound grows deeper and more forceful. Locals who live nearby say the water never truly rests. And neither does the memory of what happened here. Some evenings, when the air is still, screams seem to echo above the rushing current, carried briefly on the wind before dissolving into the roar. Locals who live nearby say the water never truly rests. And neither does the memory of what happened here. Some evenings, when the air is still, screams seem to echo above the rushing current, carried briefly on the wind before dissolving into the roar. At night, the dam takes on a different character. Those who hear the sound struggle to describe them. They are not sharp or sudden, but stretched and distant, as if pulled apart by the moving water. Sometimes lasting only seconds, sometimes repeating in faint waves. No source is ever found, and the river continues on, indifferent and unbroken. Mist rises constantly from the falls, especially when cooler night air meets the warm churn of the river below. Under the glow of nearby lights, the mist thickens and twists, forming shapes that catch the eye. Visitors have reported seeing outlines within it, pale forms that resemble falling bodies, appearing briefly before breaking apart and vanishing into the spray. These shapes never remain long enough to be clearly defined. They emerge in the corner of vision, inviting a second look that reveals nothing solid at all. The mist returns to simple vapor, drifting upward and away. Still, the impression lingers, leaving observers unsettled. As if something was almost seen but deliberately hidden. Standing near the railing, people often feel an unexpected pressure behind the eyes. Headaches form quickly, dull and persistent, accompanied by a strange sense of disorientation. Some describe difficulty focusing, as though the constant sound and motion are pulling their attention in too many directions at once. Others feel an emotional weight that does not seem to belong to them. Visitors frequently mention the sensation of being followed as they leave. It is not a visual experience, but a persistent awareness that something remains close, just beyond sight. The feeling fades only after putting significant distance between themselves and the dam. Few can explain why the sensation feels so specific to this place. Workers who spend extended hours near Great Falls Dam speak cautiously about the atmosphere. They acknowledge the physical dangers of the site but also mention moments of unease that cannot be tied to equipment or environment alone. Some report sudden chills despite warm conditions, or the sense that the sound of the water changes when no mechanical adjustments have been made. The river below the dam moves with deceptive calm once past the falls. This contrast adds to the tension of the place, a reminder that danger here has always been hidden as much as it has been visible. Despite the stories, the dam remains active and monitored. Safety systems function as intended, and official explanations point to natural causes for many reported experiences. Sound carries strangely over water. Mist bends light in unexpected ways. Physical stress can create sensations that feel external. These explanations make sense, yet they do not fully account for the consistency of the stories. People who have never met describe the same details. The timing, the sensations, the fleeting shapes in the mist all align with unsettling accuracy. The lack of a clear cause allows the stories to persist, drifting through the community much like the mist itself. As the night deepens, Great Falls Dam continues its endless task, holding back and releasing water with measured force. The roar never stops. Lights reflect across the spray, scattering into fractured patterns that shift with every movement of air. The river carries everything forward, sound, mist, and memory alike. For some, Great Falls Dam is simply an impressive structure, a testament to engineering and control. For others, it is a place where the past feels uncomfortably close, where the boundary between memory and presence grows thin. Those who leave with headaches or a lingering sense of being watched often carry the experience with them, unable to fully explain it, yet certain that something about the dam remains unresolved. In the end, the river keeps moving, and the dam stands firm against it. The stories remain, echoing softly beneath the constant rush of water, waiting for the next quiet night to rise again from the mist. Pickwick Landing Dam rises along a stretch of river that once pulsed with movement and purpose. Long before the concrete walls shaped the current, boats traveled these waters day and night, carrying cargo, families, and stories from one bend to the next. Even now, the river moves with a steady confidence, as if it remembers the weight of every hull that ever passed across its surface. During the day, the dam feels grounded and practical. Sunlight reflects off the water in bright patterns, and the wide expanse appears calm and controlled. It is easy to believe that the river has settled into a quieter life, its restless past finally at ease beneath the structure that now guides its flow. As evening approaches, the river begins to change its tone. The light fades slowly, and the water darkens to a deep, reflective surface. The air grows cooler, and the distant sounds of daytime activity drift away. When night finally settles, the dam takes on a different presence, one shaped by memory rather than movement. Some boaters who pass near Pickwick Landing Dam after sunset speak of seeing figures standing along the concrete edge. They appear dressed in old-fashioned clothing, outlines faint but unmistakable against the dim glow of distant lights. They simply stand and watch the water below, facing the river as if waiting for something that never arrives. The sightings are brief. A figure may be visible for only a few seconds before dissolving into shadow. When boaters look again, the dam appears empty, silent, and unchanged. Many dismiss the experience as a trick of the light or the fatigue of long hours on the water. Yet the details described by different witnesses are often remarkably similar. Sound plays a powerful role in the stories surrounding the dam. On certain nights, the air carries the faint ringing of bells drifting across the water. The sound is soft and distant, rising and falling with the movement of the river. It does not resemble modern signals or alarms. Instead, it feels older, like a memory echoing across time. Alongside the bells, some hear the low call of distant horns. The sound stretches across the water, slow and mournful, as though carried from far downstream. There are no vessels nearby, no visible source for the noise. It arrives without warning and fades just as quietly, leaving behind a deep and unsettling silence. Those who listen closely describe the sounds as layered, overlapping in ways that feel intentional. Bells ring softly, horns respond from afar, and the river itself seems to hum beneath it all. The experience often leaves listeners still and attentive, caught between curiosity and unease as the night deepens. The river at Pickwick Landing Dam holds a long history of journeys. Not every voyage ended as planned. Sudden storms, mechanical failures, and unseen hazards once claimed boats and crews along these waters. Over time, the river absorbed these moments, carrying them downstream and folding them into its endless motion. Locals say the river remembers every journey that never ended. It remembers the weight of vessels that vanished into the dark, and the footsteps that never reached the shore again. On quiet nights, when the water moves slowly, and the air feels heavy, these memories seem to rise to the surface. Boaters passing through the area often report an unexpected sense of awareness. The water feels deeper, the darkness more complete. Even experienced navigators find themselves slowing down, scanning the shoreline, listening more carefully than usual. The river demands attention, as if reminding those who travel it that they are never truly alone. The dam itself remains silent throughout it all. Lights reflect off the concrete, creating long shadows that stretch across the water. From a distance, the dam appears peaceful, almost serene, despite the atmosphere that gathers around it after nightfall. By the early hours of morning, the sounds fade. Bells fall silent. The distant horns drift away into nothing. Any figures that once stood along the dam are gone, leaving no trace behind. The river continues its steady flow, smooth and unbroken, as though nothing unusual occurred. With sunrise, Pickwick Landing Dam returns to its familiar role. Boats pass safely, and the water sparkles once more under open sky. Yet those who have experienced the river at night carry something with them. They remember the shapes that watched in silence and the sounds that seemed to come from another time. Pickwick Landing Dam exists between what is seen and what is remembered. And when darkness settles and the water grows still, the river speaks again, sharing fragments of journeys long gone with those who are willing to listen. Barkley Dam rises from the wide stretch of water with a sense of constant motion. Even when the surface appears calm, the place feels unsettled, as if the river beneath the concrete never truly rests. By day, the dam looks orderly and controlled, its structure firm against the slow movement of the water. Yet there is an energy here that never seems to settle, a quiet tension that visitors notice the moment they stop and listen. Standing near the base of the dam, people often hear sudden splashing sounds coming from the water below. The noise is sharp and close, like something breaking the surface with force. When they look down, nothing is there. The water quickly smooths itself out, leaving no ripples, no movement, no sign that anything disturbed it at all. The sound arrives without warning and leaves just as quickly, creating a sense of confusion that lingers longer than expected. These splashes do not follow a pattern. They occur during quiet afternoons and still evenings, sometimes only once, sometimes several times in a short span. Those who hear them often glance around, expecting to see wildlife or debris, but the area remains empty. The absence of any visible cause is what unsettles people most. As the day wears on, the air around Barkley Dam can shift without warning. Cold winds sometimes rise directly from the water, sweeping upward along the concrete face. These gusts feel different from ordinary weather changes. They are sudden and focused, chilling the skin even on warm days. The wind seems to carry the dampness of deep water, heavy and sharp, before fading as quickly as it arrived. Locals say these cold currents give the dam its restless reputation. The air never feels fully settled. Even on calm days, there is a sense that the atmosphere is waiting, ready to change at any moment. Visitors often pull their jackets tighter or step back instinctively, reacting before they understand why. As evening approaches, Barkley Dam grows quieter, but the tension does not ease. The sounds of the surrounding area soften, and the water darkens as light fades from the sky. It is during these hours that the most unsettling reports emerge. People walking along the shoreline or standing near the overlook sometimes notice dim lights moving slowly beneath the surface of the water. These lights are faint, almost hesitant, glowing softly before drifting out of view. They do not flicker like reflections and do not behave like artificial light from above. They appear deeper, muted by the water itself. The movement is slow and deliberate, tracing gentle paths before vanishing completely. No one has been able to explain these lights with certainty. They appear too controlled to be random reflections, yet too deep to come from nearby sources. Those who witness them often watch in silence, unsure whether to feel curiosity or unease. When the lights disappear, the water returns to darkness, as though nothing unusual ever occurred. The restless nature of Barkley Dam is something long-time residents speak about quietly. They describe the area as active, even when empty. The water seems to carry its own moods, shifting between calm and agitation without obvious cause. Some believe the constant movement of the river beneath the dam keeps the place from ever fully settling. Workers assigned to the area describe a similar feeling. Sounds echo differently here, bouncing off concrete and water in ways that make distance hard to judge. A noise that seems close may be far away, while a distant sound may suddenly feel near. Despite the unease, Barkley Dam is not known as a place of danger. It operates smoothly, fulfilling its purpose day after day. The sense of restlessness is subtle rather than threatening. It exists in the background, woven into the environment rather than forced upon it. Visitors often leave with a lingering impression they struggle to describe. They may not see the lights or hear the splashes, yet they sense that the place is never fully still. The memory of the cold wind or the sudden sound of water stays with them, replaying quietly in their thoughts. At night, when the area grows empty and the stars reflect faintly on the surface, the dam feels most alive. The water shifts and breathes against the concrete. The air cools and moves without pattern. The darkness seems deeper, holding secrets just below the surface. Barkley Dam stands firm against the river, a symbol of structure and control. Yet beneath that stability lies constant motion. The water moves. The air shifts. Sounds emerge and fade. Lights appear and vanish. The place never truly rests. Those who spend time here come to understand that the restlessness is part of its nature. Barkley Dam does not announce its presence with force or fear. Instead, it whispers through water and wind, reminding those who listen that some places are shaped not just by concrete and engineering, but by movement that never fully stops. Cheatham Dam sits along a quiet stretch of river where the surrounding land feels open and distant. The water moves steadily here, guided by concrete and steel, its surface reflecting wide skies by day and deep shadows by night. During daylight hours, the dam appears ordinary, almost modest, blending into the landscape as boats pass and birds circle overhead. Yet as evening approaches, the sense of isolation becomes harder to ignore. The river narrows near the dam, and the sound of flowing water grows more pronounced as other noises fade away. Trees along the banks darken into solid shapes, and the last traces of sunlight slip behind the horizon. Night settles quickly in this place, wrapping the river in stillness. It is then that fishermen arrive, drawn by the quiet and the promise of calm waters. Night fishing near Cheatham Dam is often described as peaceful at first. The water glides past with slow confidence, and the dam hums softly in the background. Lines are cast, lanterns glow faintly, and conversation drifts into silence. Many describe these early moments as meditative, a rare pause from the noise of everyday life. But as the hours pass, the atmosphere begins to shift. Fishermen report hearing voices speaking just behind them, close enough to suggest another person standing nearby. The voices are low and clear, as if part of a casual conversation, yet the words are never fully understood. They sound familiar, almost friendly, which makes the experience all the more unsettling. Instinctively, people turn around, expecting to see a fellow angler or a passerby. Instead, they find only empty shoreline and quiet water. No footsteps retreat. No movement breaks the darkness. The voices vanish the moment attention is drawn to them, leaving behind a sudden silence that feels heavier than before. Those who experience this often remain still, listening for any sign of return. Some describe a chill that moves through them, not from the air, but from the realization that the sound had no visible source. Others pack up immediately, choosing not to question what they heard. A few stay longer, determined to understand, though the voices never repeat on command. The river itself seems to watch during these moments. The surface reflects distant stars, disturbed only by the occasional ripple. The dam stands firm, its outline barely visible against the night sky. The sense of being alone grows stronger, even when others are nearby. It is a solitude that feels shared with something unseen. Adding to the unease are reports of figures seen standing on the spillway. These sightings usually occur late at night, when the dam is lit by scattered lights and long shadows stretch across the concrete. Witnesses describe dark shapes positioned along the edge, motionless and silent, as if observing the river below. From a distance, the figures appear solid, standing upright and still. They do not wave or move, nor do they react when noticed. When approached, the shapes fade into darkness or vanish entirely, leaving only empty concrete where something seemed to stand moments earlier. No sound accompanies their disappearance. Security workers and night visitors have shared similar experiences, often reluctant to speak openly about them. The figures are never threatening in their behavior, yet their presence carries an undeniable weight. It feels less like an intrusion and more like an observation, as though the dam itself has watchers. The combination of voices and figures has shaped how people interact with Cheatham Dam after dark. Many fishermen choose to leave before midnight, guided by a sense that the river is no longer welcoming. Boaters slow their pace, staying closer to the center of the channel, avoiding the shadows near the structure. Standing near the dam at night reveals its true scale. The concrete walls rise from the water, disappearing into darkness below. The steady movement of water can be felt through the ground, a quiet reminder of the force held in place. The sound is constant, neither loud nor soft, but persistent enough to fill the silence. There are moments when the wind shifts and carries faint echoes across the river. In those moments, every sound feels amplified. A splash seems too loud. A distant call feels too close. The line between imagination and experience becomes blurred, and the mind searches for explanations that never fully satisfy. Despite the stories, Cheatham Dam continues to serve its purpose without interruption. By day, it is a place of routine and function, visited by workers, anglers, and travelers passing through. Sunlight softens its edges, and the river looks harmless and open. The night's mysteries seem distant in the brightness. Yet for those who have stood there after dark, the memory lingers. The sensation of voices just behind them. The sight of silent figures watching from above changes how the place is remembered. Once experienced, the river never feels entirely empty again. As the night deepens and the river flows on, Cheatham Dam remains still and watchful. The voices fade, the figures are unseen. And the water continues its quiet journey. But beneath the steady movement and the calm surface, the sense of something unseen remains, waiting patiently for the next listener to arrive. Percy Priest Dam welcomes thousands of visitors during the day, its wide water stretching under open sky and bright sun. Boats drift across the surface, laughter carries from the shore, and the surrounding paths feel open and inviting. The dam appears relaxed and familiar, a place shaped for recreation and routine, where nothing seems out of place. As daylight fades, the mood begins to shift. The crowds thin, engines fall silent, and the water settles into a smooth, dark mirror. The same shoreline that felt friendly hours earlier now feels distant and watchful. Sounds travel farther in the evening air, and even small movements seem amplified against the stillness. Many who remain after sunset describe an unease they cannot explain, a sense that something has changed without warning. Some visitors experience sudden waves of panic while standing near the water. Their hearts race, breath tightens, and the urge to leave becomes overwhelming. There is no visible danger, no loud noise or clear trigger. The feeling arrives abruptly and fades just as strangely, leaving behind confusion and lingering tension. Those affected often say the panic feels borrowed, as if it does not belong to them. During still evenings, when wind and wildlife grow quiet, faint whispers have been heard rising from the water. The sounds are soft and layered, overlapping in ways that make individual words impossible to understand. They drift across the surface, then disappear, returning only when the night grows especially calm. No source is ever found, and recordings capture nothing more than silence. The water itself seems to change after dark. Reflections sharpen and deepen, turning the surface into a shifting canvas of shadow and light. On rare occasions, faces have been seen forming briefly in those reflections. They appear for only a moment, features vague and incomplete, then dissolve back into ripples. Some observers blink and look again, convinced it was imagination. Others turn away, certain they were seen in return. Local stories suggest the area holds memories beneath its surface. Before the dam reshaped the landscape, the river followed a different course. Bordered by land that carried daily life and quiet history. When the water rose, familiar ground disappeared, replaced by the broad reservoir that now defines the area. What remains below is unseen, but not forgotten. At night, the shoreline feels closer, as if the distance between land and water has narrowed. Footsteps sound louder, and pauses stretch longer than expected. People walking alone often feel watched, though no movement can be identified. The sensation comes not from behind, but from all directions at once, as if the space itself is paying attention. Lights along the dam cast long reflections that shimmer and break apart with each ripple. These broken patterns sometimes resemble movement just beneath the surface, stirring uneasily before settling again. The effect is subtle, but enough to hold the eye longer than intended. Time seems less reliable here after dark, minutes slipping by unnoticed. The whispers are not constant. They arrive in pockets of silence. When conversation fades and the water lies undisturbed, those who hear them say the sound is not threatening, but intimate, like distant voices, sharing something meant to be heard but not understood. The experience leaves listeners unsettled, unsure whether to lean closer or step away. Despite the stories, the dam shows no visible sign of unrest. Its structure remains firm and unchanging, a steady presence against the slow movement of water. By design, it controls flow and prevents chaos. Yet the calm it creates carries its own weight. The stillness feels deliberate, holding more than it reveals. Some believe the panic felt by visitors is a reflection of the place itself, a response to what lies beneath the surface. Others suggest the human mind fills silence with meaning, especially in places shaped by change and loss. Whatever the explanation, the experiences are consistent enough to be remembered and shared. As night deepens, the area grows quieter still. The water darkens until it no longer reflects the sky, becoming a single, unbroken plain. Faces in the reflections vanish. Whispers fade. Panic subsides. What remains is a heavy calm, thick and unmoving, pressing gently against anyone who lingers. Eventually, most choose to leave before the night grows too late. Cars start, headlights sweep across the shoreline, and the familiar world returns in fragments of sound and motion. With distance, the tension eases, and the experiences feel harder to define. By morning, Percy Priest Dam returns to its daytime rhythm. Visitors arrive unaware of the night stories, drawn only by the promise of calm water and open space. Yet the dam holds both faces of itself equally. By day, it offers recreation and ease. By night, it reveals something quieter and more complex. The panic without cause, the whispers from still water. The faces that form and vanish in reflection all suggest that the place remembers more than it shows. When evening comes again and the last voices fade, the water waits. Reflections gather. silence deepens. And in the calm darkness, Percy Priest Dam becomes what it has always been, a place where the surface tells only part of the story, and the rest lingers just beneath, patient and unseen. Boone Dam rises across the river with a presence that feels tense and restrained, as if the water behind it is constantly pushing forward, testing every surface. From a distance, the structure looks solid and unmoving, a firm barrier against the current. Up close, the sound of water pressing and sliding along concrete gives the impression of contained force, something powerful held just barely in check. The river here has never been gentle. Long before the dam was built, seasonal floods reshaped its banks and carried debris far downstream. Locals still describe the water as restless, quick to swell after heavy rain, quick to carve new paths when given the chance. When the dam was constructed, the river was slowed, redirected, and disciplined, but many believe its temperament never truly changed. During daylight hours, Boone Dam feels practical and controlled. The hum of machinery blends with the steady movement of water. Yet as evening falls and the light fades, the dam begins to reveal a different character. After night settles in, cracking sounds echo through the structure. They are not loud enough to cause alarm, but clear enough to be noticed. The noises come irregularly, sharp pops followed by long moments of silence. Engineers explain them as natural responses to pressure, temperature shifts, and the constant load of water. Still, the timing unsettles those who hear them, especially when the sounds seem to travel through the concrete like distant thunder. Standing on the dam at night, visitors often feel subtle vibrations beneath their feet. The ground seems to pulse gently, not enough to unbalance anyone, but enough to be unmistakable. The sensation rises through the soles of shoes, spreading upward like a low-frequency hum. Some describe it as the river speaking through the structure, others as the dam answering back. These vibrations are strongest near the center, where water pressure is greatest. They come and go without warning, lasting several seconds before fading away. When they stop, the sudden stillness feels heavier than the movement itself, leaving people acutely aware of the massive forces locked just beyond the concrete wall. The soundscape around Boone Dam changes at night as well. The Rivera's rush deepens into a steady roar that never fully repeats itself. Wind carries the noise across the surface, bending it into strange patterns that seem to rise and fall like breathing. Some who linger too long begin to notice a rhythm, slow and deliberate, as if the dam itself is inhaling and exhaling with the water. This idea has become part of local belief. Some say Boone Dam feels alive. Not in a literal sense, but as a structure so connected to the river that the two move as one system. They believe the cracking sounds are the dam adjusting its weight, the vibrations its heartbeat, and the deep rumble its voice. Workers who maintain the site speak carefully about their experiences. They trust the engineering and understand the science behind the structure. Yet many admit the dam feels different at night. Long corridors amplify sound, making footsteps echo farther than expected. The walls seem to carry noise along unseen paths, creating the impression that something is moving just out of sight. A few workers describe moments when the vibrations feel stronger than usual, followed by an overwhelming silence. During those moments, even the river seems to pause, as if both water and structure are holding their breath. Then the normal sounds return, and the feeling passes without explanation. Visitors often leave Boone Dam with a lingering sense of tension. It is not fear, but awareness, the feeling of standing near something that demands respect. The dam does its job flawlessly, yet the energy surrounding it feels raw and barely restrained. People talk about the angry river behind the wall, imagining the pressure building, waiting for release. The river below the dam flows swiftly, carrying away the force that cannot pass through. Its surface looks calmer downstream, but the current remains strong, pulling steadily against the banks. Watching it move, it becomes easier to understand why the dam feels so alive. The water never stops pushing, never stops testing, and the structure never stops resisting. Despite the stories, Boone Dam continues to operate safely and efficiently. Inspections confirm its strength. Data supports its stability. There is no evidence of danger beyond what is already known and managed. Still, the experiences people describe persist, passed quietly from one visitor to another. Some believe the sensations come from standing above immense pressure for too long. And some believe the river and dam share a connection that goes beyond function, something formed through years of constant struggle between flow and control. As night deepens, the cracking sounds echo once more, faint but distinct. The vibrations return briefly, then fade. The river continues to press forward, and the dam continues to hold. Together, they remain locked in an endless exchange, force against resistance, motion against stillness. For those who visit Boone Dam after dark, the experience rarely feels ordinary. Long after leaving, many remember the sound, the movement underfoot, and the sense that the structure was more than silent concrete. Whether alive or simply responding to Naturia's pressure, Boone Dam leaves behind a powerful impression, one shaped by water, weight, and the quiet tension of a river that never stops pushing forward. Wilbur Dam stands quietly along the river, older than most structures that surround it, its surface marked by time and weather. By daylight, it appears solid and dependable, a reminder of early engineering and careful design. The water moves steadily below, controlled and calm, giving little indication of the unease that settles in after nightfall. Those who have lived nearby for generations often speak of the dam with a cautious respect. They say it has always felt different, as though it carries more than the weight of water behind its walls. Even during calm evenings, when the sky is clear and the air is still, there is a sense that something unseen is awake along the riverbank. As dusk fades into night, Wilbur Dam begins to change. The surrounding sounds soften, and the river darkens into a slow-moving ribbon of shadow. The dam wall stretches across the water like a boundary between what is known and what is not. Few people remain nearby after midnight, and those who do often keep their visits brief. Locals describe hearing chanting near the water, low and steady, carried softly by the air. The sound rises from the riverbank and echoes faintly against the concrete, never loud enough to fully understand, yet clear enough to feel intentional. Some who hear the chanting say it seems to come from multiple directions at once. One moment it drifts from downstream, the next it feels closer, almost directly behind them. When they turn to look, there is nothing there. The voices fade as suddenly as they appear, leaving only the sound of flowing water and a lingering sense of being observed. Strange lights have also been reported along the dam wall after midnight. These lights are not bright or harsh. They glow softly, moving slowly across the concrete in patterns that do not match reflections or passing vehicles. Sometimes they appear as small orbs, hovering just above the surface. Other times they stretch into thin lines, sliding along the wall before vanishing. Witnesses often describe the lights as pale and muted, neither warm nor cold in color. They do not flicker like electrical faults, nor do they cast shadows. The lights seem to exist on their own, separate from the dam itself, as if tracing paths only they can see. When approached, they fade away, leaving the wall dark and unchanged. Those who linger near Wilbur Dam for too long often report unusual effects after leaving. Sleep becomes restless, filled with vivid nightmares that feel unusually real. These dreams are often centered around water, darkness, and distant voices that cannot quite be understood. Even after waking, the images remain sharp, clinging to memory throughout the day. Some say the nightmares last for several nights, sometimes longer. The dreams repeat with small variations, as if replaying fragments of the same experience from different angles. People wake feeling unsettled, carrying a sense of unease that does not fade easily. Many avoid returning to the dam afterward, convinced that their presence there invited something to follow them home. There are no official explanations for these experiences. Engineers and historians speak only of the dam's age and construction, its role in controlling the river and providing power. Records show nothing unusual, nothing that might explain the sounds, the lights, or the lingering effects reported by visitors. Yet the stories continue, passed quietly between neighbors and shared only with those willing to listen. What makes Wilbur Dam especially unsettling is its silence. It does not announce its presence with obvious signs or dramatic displays. Everything happens subtly, just beyond the edge of certainty. A sound that might be mistaken for wind. A light that could almost be dismissed as reflection. A dream that feels too vivid to ignore. The river itself seems to play a role in the atmosphere. At night, its surface reflects very little, absorbing light rather than returning it. The water moves steadily, unbroken, as though it carries secrets downstream without ever releasing them. Standing near the edge, one can feel the depth and weight of it, pressing quietly against the senses. Long-time residents often say that Wilbur Dam remembers more than it shows. They believe that years of human presence, effort, and emotion have settled into the place, layering unseen impressions into the concrete and water. Over time, these impressions have found ways to surface, especially when the world grows quiet. By morning, the dam appears unchanged. Sunlight reveals the familiar structure, solid and still, with no sign of the night's activity. The river flows as it always does, and the air feels lighter, easier to breathe. To an unknowing visitor, there is nothing to suggest unease. Yet those who have heard the chanting, seen the lights, or carried the nightmares know better. They remember the way the night felt heavier, the way the darkness seemed aware. Wilbur Dam remains, patient and unmoving, holding its stories within its walls and waiting for the next quiet night to let them rise again. Thank you for traveling through the haunted river dams of Tennessee with me tonight. These massive structures were built to control nature, but some forces refuse to be contained. Beneath the concrete and steel, rivers continue to carry memories, loss, and restless energy. Some places are meant to be respected from a distance. Some stories are better listened to than challenged. If you ever find yourself near a Tennessee dam after dark, listen carefully. The water may be listening too. Would you dare stand alone at the edge of a river dam at midnight, or would you walk away before the whispers reach your ears? Rest well, my friend. Until our next haunted journey.